If your child is falling behind and your gut is just telling you that something's off, I want you to trust your gut because you're probably right. But the only advice that you get from different parents, from your family, from different doctors is, let's wait and see. They're probably fine. They're probably just gonna grow out of it. But guys, here's the truth. Some kids grow out of their delays, yes, but most delays don't usually just fix themselves on their own. And the longer that we're waiting, the harder the brain has to work to ultimately catch up, and throughout development, time is extremely precious. But if we develop the right approach, and if we develop a plan that's ultimately rooted in how the brain develops, we can start seeing some real meaningful change. So in this video, I'm gonna give you 4 things that every single parent should know and do when their child's behind, even before they might be getting a diagnosis. My name's Dr. Connor Bohr, and I work with kids who have been stuck, sometimes for years, in patterns of different developmental delay, or they might just have plateaued progress, where we're a little bit different because we don't wait for symptoms to keep piling up, but we want to take a step back and look how the brain is developing as a system. And we help parents rebuild that system from the ground up. So let's talk about what this actually looks like. So here's 4 things that I want you to do if you think your child is delayed. First and foremost is you need to start early. There's these developmental windows that happen throughout neurodevelopment that are extremely crucial, and the earlier that you get started with everything, the more potential progress that you can make, because the younger a brain is, the more malleable the brain is, the more the brain can change. So all of these connections that happen from birth to around age 6 or so are building the foundation for all of our other neurologic skills to grow on, from reading to focus and attention to behaviors to different motor movements. All of this starts when we're still at a young age, because all of those building blocks that we build at that young age continue to stack on top of each other throughout all of our neurodevelopment. Now, with that being said, I don't want you to have to wait for a formal diagnosis. Yes, getting a diagnosis is important, but the younger that you're able to get the ball rolling with all of your therapies, the more important that it is. And there's a lot of different therapies out there that help with early intervention. There's a lot of good physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists. There's ABA that works well. There's functional neurology applications that you could be doing as well to help jumpstart your child's neurodevelopment. Now, what's important about this is make sure that the person that you work with has a lot of experience in early intervention, because they're able to set up a plan, and if you start this plan at an early age, that is going to just help you significantly month after month, year after year. Now, this second one is very important, and it's something that I feel like a lot of people look past or may look over, but it's supporting the child as a whole, even past all the therapies that you're doing. Yes, the therapies are important, early intervention is important, but there's things that just happen from a day-to-day standpoint throughout neurodevelopment that we could really build momentum upon. And that's some of the basic things like movement, like sleep, like the foods that we're eating, like the environment that we're in. If we can just make some of these small swaps, so if your child has a delay, it might not be the best idea to put them in front of a screen for multiple hours a day, where if we can switch that screen time for movement to going outside, that is going to work so well in our favor. And this applies to many things across the board. So say you notice your child might have a delay, you probably want to start introducing more healthier foods. So instead of eating all this processed food and all these snacks, candy, sugar, you might want to switch over and focus a little bit more from a dietary standpoint to help support the internal environment of their body. Because what you have to remember is sometimes the internal environment is just as important, if not more important, than all of the symptoms that we're seeing. And if we are able to support the internal environment through lifestyle changes, there's a chance that we might see improvements from a milestone standpoint, from a delay standpoint, just by doing the interventions that help us feel better. So these simple shifts can help to ultimately regulate the brain and create a healthy environment for growth. So third, this is getting more popular, but I think it's so important, especially when we're looking at a milestone standpoint, is we have to work on integrating primitive reflexes. So primitive reflexes are like the building blocks from a neurodevelopmental standpoint. These reflexes are infantile reflexes that we're born with that essentially helps us to survive the first year of life. So everything from the birthing process to rolling over to crawling, all of these come from our primitive reflexes. Now, with children that have any sort of developmental delay, a lot of times we see retention of these primitive reflexes because neurodevelopment didn't happen in the most optimal way that it can. So doing therapies, working with a trained practitioner that that knows what they're doing with primitive reflexes can be just such an important thing to introduce to your child's therapeutic plan, because the more that these reflexes integrate, the more improvements that you're going to have just with that alone, but the more that gives you the potential to grow other therapies that you're doing, because those roadblocks that should have been integrated are now being worked on, so the brain can continue growing in the most optimal way possible. And the fourth and final one, and this is another thing that we started implementing more and is so important, but is focusing on regulation before you're focusing on specific skills. Where if a child's stuck in fight or flight 24/7, they're not going to be able to read, they're not going to be able to speak in the most appropriate way, they're going to be getting overstimulated at things that shouldn't overstimulate them. So you need to figure out strategies that you're able to do, even from a therapeutic standpoint, that helps to just calm their brain, let them settle in their body, let them feel more confident in their body, because the better that they feel in their body, the better skills that they're going to be able to perform. Now, with that being said, I'm not telling you to completely abandon all skill-based activity, especially if your child's a little bit older, but it's so important to be able to regulate someone's body before having expectations for them to do. I can't tell you how many parents that we've worked with, and I've even seen other practitioners work with, where everyone tells them that their child's fine, to not stress about it, they're being a paranoid parent, but these parents don't take no for an answer, and they trust their inner gut, they trust their intuition, and they go out and search for different things that can help improve their child's development. And if a proper plan is put into place, sometimes you can see these shifts happen very fast. And sometimes these delays, they don't have to be these major big delays, sometimes they're little subtle things. But kids' brains or kids in general, are so cool to work with because they respond quicker than any adult really can. So watch what happens if you put a proper plan in place. It's going to help your child flourish, they're going to get more confident, and they're going to do things almost on a daily basis that's going to surprise you, because neurodevelopment is a beautiful thing, and what we have to do is help to support neurodevelopment the best way we can, so their internal bodies can keep growing to the highest of their abilities. So in summary, if your child's falling behind, don't wait until it's quote unquote bad enough. Start now, start putting these things into action. So trust your gut. You already know that something's not clicking, and now I want you to use these ideas, reach out to other people, learn as much stuff as you can, because the more confident that you are as a parent, the better plan of action that you're going to make for your child.